everyone and welcome back to Alex Elliott Golf. Now this week's tip is all about how we can hit these fairway woods off the deck consistently. Now this is something even a lot of the tour pros find hard to get right because a 3-wood is a very hard club in order to get it in the air and get it a long distance. Now a lot of you guys at home will probably say, well, my 5-wood goes further than my 3-wood and my 7-wood goes further than my 3-wood. Well, that's all to do with the loft, and most amateurs find more loft easier to get in the air and therefore carry the ball further. We're going to run through some simple tips in order to make sure you get this 3-wood off the deck as far as you can. So before we run through those 3 tips about how we're going to make sure we hit this 3-wood off the deck consistently and as far as we can, I want to talk about the difference between irons and woods, and in this case fairway woods. With irons, our bottom of our swing wants to be just past the golf ball, because as we all know, we want to be able to hit down on that golf ball, get that nice divot bruising after the golf ball in order to get that good pure strike. Whereas with a 3-wood and with a driver, ideally, with a driver, before we talk about 3-wood, we want the bottom of the swing bottoming out just before the golf ball to allow us to hit the ball on the up. And that will allow us to launch the ball as high as we can and as far as we can with the least amount of spin. So with a 3-wood, we want that bottom of the arc happening just at the golf ball. So not just before, not just after, just at the golf ball. So tip number 1 is all about ball position. As we said with an iron, we generally have it closer towards the middle of our stance with like a 7-iron, 8-iron, and work forwards depending on what iron we have. So with a 3-iron, it'll be closer towards our lead on our left foot. So with a driver, we want the ball on our left heel. With a 3-wood, we want it a club head inside our left heel. So let's run through a tip of how we're going to do that. I want you to put your feet together. I want you just to turn your left foot out, and then we can measure a club head here. Now this is something we can do on the range. We wouldn't go through this process out on the golf course. Then we can just shuffle our foot left, and now we've got a ball position that is a club head inside our left heel. So from there, we're talking about getting this bottom of the arc happening right at the golf ball, and moving this ball slightly back a driver will allow us to do that. But let's talk about how we're going to make it easier to address the golf ball out on the golf course. We don't want to mess around putting the club head down and slows down our process out on the course. So let's run through a tip of how we're going to address this golf ball easier out on the golf course. So I want you to address the golf ball with your feet together and the ball on your right toe, because if you measure your right toe, it's about a club head width apart. So from there, just turn your left toe out, and now just put your right toe out and taking a nice solid base. And as you can see there, I've quickly got that ball position, a club head inside my left heel. That's tip number 1. Tip number 1, we've got our ball, a club head inside our left heel. I want you just to imagine the ball is a club head inside your left heel, and just practice mini swings, bruising that ground, scuffing that ground, a ball inside your left heel. This is just going to make sure we find that bottom of the arc right at the bottom of that ball, not after it and not before it. So this is going to be something that's going to take a little bit of playing around with. People might want the ball a little bit further forward to preference, or a little bit further back because they feel they can guarantee the strike. But in general terms, we want to make sure this ball is a club head inside our left heel. So tip number 2, we talked about our ball position, which is going to help us make sure that bottom of the arc is happening right at the golf ball. Now, we've always talked about in the past on my channel about this golf swing being a large circle, this side and this side. But as we all know, the circle on the way back won't be as wide as a circle on the way through, because obviously when the chest is moving through the golf ball, and the more we move this chest, the wider we can make this circle on the way through. So my tip number 2 is the feeling of being as wide as we can with the chest moving through the golf ball. So we're posing with that chest to the target, our arms as far away from our head as possible. This is going to allow us to be shallower into the golf ball and give us a better chance of guaranteeing that strike. So if I was to make sure this was a big heavy weight at the end of this golf club and I wanted to throw this golf club as far as I could, I'd turn, make my circle as big as possible on the way through, chest moving, and that is tip number 2. Wide as you can on the way through with your chest moving. So tip number 2 kind of leads me on to tip number 3. Now a lot of people, because they see this club, the 3-wood, has not got a lot of loft on it, they stand here and their shoulders move up this way. So tip up in order to feel like we scoop that ball and give us a better chance of getting that ball into the air. In theory though, this is going to minimise our chance of getting the ball into the air. Yes, we will in some cases if we time it correctly, but in general terms, the more we kind of tip up with the shoulders and help that ball in the air, the more chance we're going to hit that ball off the bottom of the face or even fat the golf ball behind. So the reason for this is because we catch the golf ball right at the top of the arc. So like we talked about throughout this session, We've always wanted the arc happening at the golf ball. The more we tip, the more we scoop. We're relying a lot on timing in order to guarantee that arc is at the bottom of the golf ball. Because if I tip and scoop here, you can see my arc is moving further behind the golf ball. So therefore it's giving me less chance of making sure I get a nice solid centered strike. So how are we going to feel like, and I'm feeling, this is really a feeling of how we're going to make sure the shoulders move around and not up. If I was stood here now with my arms across my chest, I'd turn around and around. They wouldn't work. Tip and tip. Now I think everybody at home would agree with that, but a lot of us don't make sure we get that feeling through the golf ball. So my feeling for you is, I want you to feel like your eye level through the ball stays as level as we can. The more we tip, the more our eye level changes. So if we try and feel like we keep our eye level and our belt buckle level, so it's not tipping up, eye level changing, belt buckle changing. If we feel like our eye level stays the same and our belt buckle stays the same. So in other words, we're working more rotary through the golf ball. So if I show you that one more time, turn back, eye level stays the same on the way through. Now imagine all of us were hitting a baseball shot. We'd all have the golf club up here, and we turn around ourselves and around ourselves. And our eye level and our belt buckle and our chest and our shoulders would stay very level. Let's apply that same theory, but just move that golf club down to the ground. So tip number 3 is keeping our eye level and our shoulders working more rotary, not tipping up and scooping the ball through the golf ball. Let's now apply those 3 tips and hit this golf shot. So, like we said, if we play on the golf course, feet together with the ball on our right toe, with a right-handed player, turn the left toe out, and just move the right foot away. Nice solid base. My feeling of being wide as I can through the golf ball, like we said, our circle is wide on the way through with our chest moving, then it will be on the way back. And then from there, I feel like my eye level stays as level as possible. So really, I've got 2 thoughts over the golf ball now, wide and level through the ball. So let's just summarise and explain this in further detail. So tip number 1, ball position a club head inside your left heel for a right-handed player. Tip number 2, we want to feel as wide as we can through the golf ball. And tip number 3 is feeling the shoulders work around and as level as they can through the golf ball. Not this tipping action and bottoming out the arc before the golf ball, trying to help that ball up in the air. If we apply all these 3 factors that we've talked about today, we will have a better chance of getting that ball in the air for further and longer distances, and for most of it, a longer carry. As we said before at the start of this video, it's very hard to guarantee a good strike with this 3-wood. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but generally if we can improve our 3-wood and our fairway woods by 1%, then we're going to be a lot better player. Thank you for watching this week's tip on Alex Elliott Golf. If you've not already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. All you need is a Gmail account. Thank you for watching.